I'm Chek from SIT, Singapore Institute of Technology, and in this video series, we are talking about Scrum through the lens of a real software project that we are doing recently. So what is Scrum? If you search for these keywords on YouTube, you can actually get a lot of good videos there. But for completeness, we will also provide an overview of what Scrum is from our perspective. Scrum is a type of agile methodology that is most commonly applied to dynamic, complex projects. And we commonly see it in software projects in general. And Scrum basically defines a set of activities and artifacts to effectively manage a highly iterative process. So a concept key to Scrum is the notion of a sprint, which normally lasts 2 weeks but can vary according to your project requirements. So the sprint starts with a sprint planning meeting, in which the key goal here is to choose a set of requirements captured in what is known as user stories from what is known as a product backlog. So product backlog is the global list of user stories. You choose a certain subset from there into what is known as a sprint backlog, which is basically the backlog that this current sprint is going to use. So that is the sprint planning meeting. And with this set of user stories from the sprint backlog, we would embark on this 2-week sprint. And in the 2-week sprint, the key meeting that is going to happen is the daily Scrum, which is a daily reporting of progress for each developer. It is also known as the stand-up meeting because every developer stands up and reports what is being done, what is going to do today, as well as what issues they have. So after a 2-week sprint of development, a potentially shippable product is being released in which users and stakeholders would come together in this next phase called the sprint review in order to determine whether each one of its user stories can actually be marked as completed or not. So completion means that every one of the acceptance criteria listed on the user stories are done as deemed appropriate by the stakeholders and the users. Then after the sprint review is done, we'll move to the sprint retrospective, in which only the internal development team would stay and reflect upon their process by looking at 3 elements of the process: what was done well, what was done not so well, as well as something that after the discussion they agree to commit to improving. And with that, that is the end of one sprint, and we'll start again sprint planning in the next sprint cycle, and this will continue. So who is involved in all these 4 processes that we have described so far? So the first important role is the Scrum Master. And as the name of the role implies, he is responsible for maintaining good Scrum practices. As part of this role, he would do things like hosting all the 4 meetings, making sure that people are keeping to time, as well as mediating discussions so that everything falls in order. And next we have the Product Owner. The product owner is responsible for requirements and making sure that the requirements are being accomplished as part of the user stories that are being done. So his key role would be in the sprint planning meeting as well as in the sprint review meeting. Then we have the development team who will actually build the product. Now that we have an overview of what the Scrum processes are, the next videos in this series will actually give you more details about what goes on in each one of these Scrum meetings.